Hi, my name is Latasha Kessel. I'm a mental health counselor at the University of Colorado Springs, in the Veterans Health and Trauma Clinic. We've put together a Greater Resilience Information Toolkit, also known as GRIT, in an effort to support and help facilitate a stronger and more cohesive community in the face of disasters such as the COVID-19 pandemic. As a part of this toolkit, I'll be talking through handling grief and loss. Unfortunately, grief and loss is something that we have all experienced at some point in our lives. And typically, when we think about loss, we think about the big loss, so what we call the primary loss. But right now, probably more than any other time in my life anyway, we are experiencing multiple secondary losses. And secondary losses are those losses that come along and compound the primary loss or are a direct result of the primary loss. So, say you lose your job, and that is the primary loss, and as a secondary loss or as secondary losses, you may lose the social aspects and the relationships that you had at work. You may lose a sense of purpose. You may feel like you've lost opportunities. You may lose finances. You can't provide for your family the way you used to. There may be a loss of faith. You might question your faith. And so, like I said, right now, more than ever, we are experiencing these secondary losses, and they are important to be aware of because if we only acknowledge the primary loss, we can't always pinpoint and understand how strong and profound our feelings are. While we don't have a lot of control over the losses we're experiencing right now, we do have control over how we deal with these losses and the tools we use to move through the grieving process as a result of these losses. One of the things we want to be aware of is not getting stuck at any point in the grieving process. And we know we are stuck or getting stuck when we hear these internal thoughts and beliefs kind of cycling through our minds consistently. And some of those thoughts are things like the pain will never get better. I can't do this. I don't deserve this. I can't allow myself to grieve because grieving is weakness. Things will never be the same. And while all of those things may feel true at the time, they don't leave a lot of space for growth. They are very stifling statements. And so first we want to be aware that we're having these thoughts, and then we want to dispute them or replace them with more positive statements that open up that space for growth and the potential that we won't always be in this emotional state or mind space. Some examples of those positive statements are instead of the pain will never get better, this is painful today. Instead of grieving as a sign of weakness, I feel vulnerable when I'm grieving. Instead of things will never be the same, things are different. And so while you're still giving yourself compassion and acknowledging exactly what you feel, you're also leaving that space open for growth and therefore hope. Knowing the stages of grief can also be helpful in moving through the grieving process. It is not to imply that there is a particular way to grieve or there are these linear steps to grieving. It is simply a way to label what you're feeling at any given point in time, and this is helpful because how do you get to coping if you don't even know or can't acknowledge or label what's going on with you? I like to say that emotions are kind of like children. You can't ignore them and expect them to go away. They typically come back a little bit stronger and they fight harder to get your attention when you ignore them. And so we have to first acknowledge and accept the presence, and then accept and acknowledge the message they're trying to communicate. And emotions are no different. You have to accept and acknowledge first that they're there, and then secondly, what they are trying to convey to you. And so I offer that as the first step in coping with grief and loss. You first have to accept and acknowledge both your reality as it is and what you feel as a result of your reality as it is. And so in the example of losing your job, I lost my job and I'm sad, I'm worried, I'm resentful, I'm hurt, and you want to stick to the facts. There are no perceptions or interpretations of the situation in there. It's just the situation as it is. If it's a loss, if you've lost somebody to death, you want to be factual, even though it's painful. And so my mom died, my sister died, my brother died, and I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm resentful. And so both acknowledging your reality and what you feel about that reality. Doesn't mean that you're okay with it or that you agree with it. It just means that it is what it is, and I accept that. I have no choice but to accept it. And that is what allows you to move from one emotional state to the next. Next, you want to accept your process, your grieving process. Again, there are stages of grief, but that doesn't mean that that's a roadmap for you. Your process is your process. You're going to grieve the way you grieve. Again, it's a very non-linear process. Grieving is messy, it's unpredictable, and that's okay. You accept it all as it comes, and again, maintaining compassion and being gracious with yourself through the entire process. Third, you want to realize there is nothing to get over. When we talk in terms of a process or stages, we automatically, see this beginning and we see this end. But with grieving, there's not necessarily an end, and there's definitely no time frame. And so it's not about getting over anything. Grieving is about managing what comes up, your emotions and your feelings that come up as a result of your loss. And so you may never get over it. And again, that's okay. That's okay. It may get better. It may feel different. But you may never get over anything, so to speak. It is strictly about managing what you feel. Lastly, you want to find meaning. Finding meaning is probably the most critical and helpful tool that you can use in the grieving process. How can I, asking yourself, how can I make this matter in my life? How can I make this loss count for me? And some ways to do that is first by honoring. If it's a loss of a relationship or a person, honoring that person or that relationship. A good question to ask is what brought that person joy, and allowing that to guide you. If there was an organization that they were involved in or something that they just love to do, then you kind of take that on in the spirit of that person and honor them through that. Another way to find meaning is through rituals. Did you have annual vacations with this loved one? Was there a movie night or a game night, or something that you did routinely with your loved one? Keep doing it. There's a tendency to stop because the activity reminds you of your loved one, and so it's about still doing it and thinking about the good times, and the times you were able to do that with your loved one, putting that focus and energy there and shifting it from mourning and loss. Another way to find meaning is through gratitude. How can I be thankful for something in this situation? And it may be being grateful for something as a part of the loss, or simply being thankful for the way things were prior to the loss. And those are not things that kind of happen naturally, because you are hurting and you are mourning. But again, when we talk about what you have control over, that is one of the things that you can come in and consciously do. And again, we're not trying to drown anything out or make anything go away. We just want that balance. We don't want to just focus and put all this energy into mourning and in the loss of something or someone. We also want to come and flip that coin over and look at the other side of it. And we do that through honoring and creating rituals and practicing gratitude. And so in conclusion, I leave you with a quote by Elizabeth Postel, who's an author of Grief and Sympathy. And she says, "We human beings are incredibly resilient. I believe that much of our recovery depends on our own decisions to try and find meaning and to make the most of every minute of this precious life that we have on earth." We are collectively grieving right now. There's a lot of loss going around. Be a support. Seek out support when needed. And we can collectively get through this. Peace and much love. Be well.